This is Alore Radio, transmitting from Ibadan.
You are tuned to Alore Radio, broadcasting from Ibadan, Oyo State, Nigeria.
Okay, good morning to you, ladies and gentlemen out there. I hope you enjoyed your weekend. It's yet another refreshing moment on your favorite Alore newspaper review. I am Olamide Adeniji, and with me here is...
Good morning, I am Aboyede Uju, and thank you for being there in Oyo State, Ibadan, Nigeria, and in the diaspora. You're welcome to Alore Radio, transmitting from the GSM Studio, Ministry of Information, Culture, and Tourism. You're welcome to the newspaper review for the 15th of November, 2021.
Okay, so I'm taking my own, I'll be reviewing stories from the Punch newspaper, while my colleague here will be reviewing stories from
the Nigerian Tribune.
And okay, right, let's get down straight to the business of the day. My first story here says INEC lists call members to conduct direct primaries. That's on page 2 of the Punch newspaper.
On the front page of the Nigerian Tribune, I have here Oyo's IGR growth result of hard work, says Governor Makinde.
And on page 5 of the Punch newspaper, a rather sad story which says Benenoi's kills daughter, beheads neighbors' corpses for failed money ritual in Ogun.
And another disturbing story here on page 26 of the Nigerian Tribune says Uni Lawrence student beats female lecturer to stupor.
That's rather disturbing. Beating your lecturer in school.
When we were in school, would you a lecturer is coming, you take another route. You don't even want to meet with them on the corridors of the lecture hall. Now students have the audacity to even lay their hands on lecturers.
That's quite unfortunate.
It's very sad to know.
It's sad.
Yeah.
And on the Metro page of the Punch, I have the story which says youths barricade highway as 3 killed in Akwa Ibom. Also
on page 2 of the Nigerian Tribune, it says terrorists have regrouped in Lake Chad access. Ndume raises the alarm. NDLEA launches fresh raids, seizes 4.9 billion naira cocaine in Lagos ports, others. And on page 8 of the Nigerian Tribune here with me, it says how 1.5 trillion naira COVID-19 fund was spent. For details of this, the Finance Ministry would want to give us details of how this 1.5 trillion for COVID-19 was spent. I believe you want to know that. Yes, I want to know it. I want to know it. Okay. And on page 7 of the Punch newspaper, FG denies sponsoring terrorism, faults US group. And on page 8 of Nigerian Tribune, on stories on Electoral Act, says Buhari will base his decision on public security economic interests, says Malami. Bello seeks further investigation into Vanguard reporter's death. Page 7 of the Punch newspaper. Also on page 29 of Nigerian Tribune, it says Ogun traditional ruler threatens to lead protest over attacks by land grabbers. Oh, Detective Fashola says, I don't know what happened to camera I recovered at Lekki Tollgate. Interesting. That's on page 8 of the Punch newspaper. I don't know what happened to camera. I recovered, so he recovered it.
Yeah, there was a
Nigeria.
there was a video of him. His hands were behind him, and he was working like a detective at the Lekki toll gate. Okay. That was after the NSAS massacre last year, and then he said he discovered the camera, and then now their Fashola is saying he doesn't know what happened to the camera.
A snake has actually
swallowed it. Yeah.
Nigeria, we
ad hoc staff transporters almost frustrated Anambra polls, says INEC.
On page 26 of Nigerian Tribune, downpour in Lagos damages houses, electric poles, and vehicles.
Wow! And then the last story I'll be picking from the Punch newspaper today says Oyedepo counsels youths against get rich quick syndrome.
That is important, very important. On page 26 of the Metro page and Tribune says 1 dead, 14 injured in Osun auto crash.
Okay. We'll quickly go on a short break. When we're back, we'll bring you the news in full. Please stay tuned.
ọgbà tí àṣejìná lòdì ìrànjẹ́ làwọn aláṣẹ ìjókòó tí wọ́n fẹ́ máa jẹ ọba ni wọ́n ó ṣe gàyà díẹ̀ ná ìlú ló láṣẹ ẹjẹ́ ìlú ó jẹun náà ìdí nìyí tó fi jẹ́ pé ẹ̀tọ́ ìlú là ń fowó ìlú ṣe nípìnlẹ̀ Ọ̀yọ́ ẹ̀rí bí ní ètò ẹ̀kọ́ wa ṣe ń jògèrè LAUTECH ti di tìpínlẹ̀ Ọ̀yọ́ ilé ìwòsàn alábọ́dé bíi 40 ló ti wẹ̀wọ̀ ọ̀tún pẹ̀lú àwọn òṣìṣẹ́ tòun tòògùn àti irinṣẹ́ tó pójú owó iṣẹ́ sì ti fẹ́ẹ̀ parí pẹ̀lú lórí 100 míì jákèjádò ìpínlẹ̀ Ọ̀yọ́ ààbò tó dájú ohun amáyédẹrùn ní ìṣokùnfà ìdásílẹ̀ iléeṣẹ́ ńláńlá láwùjọ òun náà nípínlẹ̀ Ọ̀yọ́ fi wà nípò kẹta nínú àwọn ìpínlẹ̀ tí ń pawó wọlé jùlọ lábẹ́lé nílẹ̀ wa ọ̀pọ̀ ọ̀dọ́ ló ti láǹfààní ẹ̀kọ́ṣẹ́ iṣẹ́ àgbẹ̀ lọ́nà ti gbàlódé táṣeyọrí yìí ó sì jẹ́ kó ń jẹ́ sùn wà bọ̀ láìpẹ́ nípínlẹ̀ Ọ̀yọ́ àwọn òṣìṣẹ́ àtòṣìṣẹ́ fẹ̀yìntì ń gbowó wọn lásìkò pápá àṣírí Adámàsìngbà àtàwọn inú ojú pópó tí ń sòrú dọ̀sán ńkọ́ àwọn ìlú ti sọ pásì ìwádùn níṣèjọba yìí fi ń mọrírì gbogbo àwọn aláṣẹ gómìnà Ṣèyí Mákindé ló ń sọ fún wa pé pẹ̀lú ìṣọ̀kan wa oòrùn tó kù lókè yìí ó táṣọ ọgbẹ.
iléeṣẹ́ ètò ìròyìn àṣà ohun ìrìn àjò afẹ́ tìpínlẹ̀ Ọ̀yọ́ ló ń kéde.
This is Alore Radio transmitting from Ibadan.
You're welcome back to our Alore Newspaper Review. Don't forget you can join us on our social media handle on Facebook, www.facebook.com/Alore Radio. On YouTube, you could also search for Alore Radio, subscribe and follow us. And you could also log on to our website, www.aloreradio.com. Don't forget that you can also download our mobile apps on Android, and you could also follow us, like I said, on our social media handles. So straight to the business, I'll take my first story from page 2 of the Punch newspaper. INEC lists call members to conduct direct primaries. The Independent National Electoral Commission may be forced to use 7 members of the National Youth Service Corps to monitor political parties' direct primaries across the country if the President, Major General Muhammad Buhari, signs the Electoral Act Amendment Bill the Punch has lent. This is because of the large number of personnel that will be needed to monitor the direct primaries across the 8,809 wards in the state, in the 36 states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory. You may read more of the story on page 2 of the Punch newspaper, today's Punch newspaper.
Okay, let me go to the story on page 29 or in the Nigerian Tribune. Says Oyo's IGR growth result of hard work. Makinde. Governor Seyi Makinde of Oyo State has declared that the ranking of the state as 7th in the state's internally generated revenue index by the National Bureau of Statistics (NBS) for the first 2 quarters of 2021 did not come as a surprise, adding that the development was as a result of hard work. He also noted that the leap in IGR is the manifestation of his administration's pragmatic approach to governance since May 2019. If you want to know what is embedded in that story on how the IGR of Oyo State got to that level through hard work, you can pick up the Nigerian Tribune and turn to page 29.
NDLEA launches fresh raids, seizes 4.9 billion naira cocaine in Lagos ports. Others, operatives of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency have seized fresh consignments of cocaine and heroin with a combined weight of 16.85 kilograms, worth over 4.9 billion naira at the Apapa Seaport and the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, both in Lagos State. The agency said 4 persons were being investigated for the 13.65 kg cocaine seized on board a ship, MV Catarina, that came into the Apapa port from Santos, Brazil on Sunday, November 7, barely 3 weeks after 32.9 kg of cocaine was intercepted at the port on another vessel, MV Shani Nari, also from Santos, Brazil. You may pick a copy of the Punch newspaper to read more of the story.
On page 29 of Nigerian Tribune says 47 million people to live with diabetes in Africa by 2025. This is coming from the World Health Organization. Says as the world marks the centenary of the discovery of insulin, the World Health Organization, WHO, has said by 2025, 47 million people will live with diabetes in Africa, rising from 19 million people living with the disease. WHO Regional Director for Africa, Dr. Matshidiso Moeti, said premature death among people with diabetes is still high in many African countries because of late diagnosis and a lack of access to insulin. If you want to know about that story, turn to page 29 of the Nigerian Tribune.
And on page 7 of the Punch newspaper, FG denies sponsoring terrorism, faults US group. The federal government on Sunday said there was no truth in the statement credited to a US-based organization, non-profit organization, Global Advocates for Terrorism Eradication, that it is sponsoring terrorism. It described the claim as a disgusting distraction orchestrated by those seeking to weaken the ongoing massive onslaught against terrorism and banditry. The Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, made the government's position known in a statement made available to journalists in Abuja on Sunday. You may read more of the story on page 7 of the Punch newspaper.
This is a rather interesting one. Says page 2 of the Nigerian Tribune says Nigerian Army Defense Headquarters dismisses alleged coup report, says soldiers' loyalty to Buhari unshaken. The Nigerian Army has distanced itself from a report by an online platform titled Defense Headquarters Warns Soldiers Against Overthrowing Buhari's Regime. In a statement made available to newsmen on Sunday by the Director of Army Public Relations, Brigadier General Onyema Nwachukwu, the Army said it had been notified of an online story going around with the caption, Defense Headquarters warns soldiers against overthrowing Buhari's regime, published on November 13, 2021 by a certain online news medium dubbed Nigeria News House. The Army declared that, and I quote, the said publication, which was riddled with outrageous lies and fabrication, claimed that the Defense Headquarters has denounced the call for the military to take over the reins of power, end of quote. If you want to know more about the stories coming from the Defense Headquarters about coup or not, pick the Nigerian Tribune, page 2.
Okay, and on page 7, still on page 7 of the Punch newspaper, Bello seeks further investigation into Vanguard reporter's death. Kogi State Governor Alhaji Yahaya Bello has expressed sadness over the death of Vanguard's reporter Henry Salem, who has been missing since October 13. Salem's corpse was said to have been found at the morgue of the Wuse General Hospital, Abuja, on Thursday. The governor, in a statement on Sunday by his chief press secretary, Onogu Mohammed, commiserated with the family of the late journalist, the Nigerian Union of Journalists, and the House of Representatives press call over the loss. You may read more of the story on the Punch newspaper.
And on page 2 of Nigerian Tribune, I have terrorists have regrouped in Lake Chad Axis in Dume. Senator representing Borno South and Chairman Senate Committee on Army Ali Ndume at the weekend said that the fatal attack on Nigerian soldiers was indicative of the fact that the terrorists have since regrouped in the Lake Chad axis of Borno North. The commander of the Nigerian Army Special Forces team, Brigadier General Dazama Zikusu, was reportedly shot dead in an ambush by terrorists of the Islamic State of West African Province in Borno State. 4 other soldiers were killed in the incident, which occurred at Bolguma, a few kilometers from Askira town in Askira Uba local government area. Speaking with newsmen in Abuja on Sunday, the chairman Senate Committee on Army expressed concern over the development, just as he declared that he was convinced that the Nigerian military has what it takes to defeat the terrorist group. I sincerely hope they have what it takes to do that, because now that there's a kind of call that Nigeria should awake and check what is happening at Lake Chad. I pray the people in charge should do the necessary so that these people will infiltrate into the country again. Only hope so.
We hope so too. I don't know what happened to camera I recovered at Lekki Tollgate, Fashola.
I'm sorry for laughing, but I just can't help myself.
The Minister of Works announcing Mr. Babatunde Fashola says he does not know what happened to the video camera he recovered at the Lekki Tollgate after the EndSARS protest. Fashola said this during an interview on Arise Television, which was monitored by our correspondent. The former governor of Lagos State, who had visited the state in October last year to assess the damage caused by hoodlums, spotted a camcorder at the toll plaza, which he handed over to a government official. Okay, you may read more of this interesting story on page 8 of the Punch newspaper.
And I have here also on page 2 says Olori Adebimpe Lipede dies at 68. Olori Adebimpe Lipede, wife of the immediate past Alake and paramount ruler of Egbaland, Oba Mofolonsho Oyebade Lipede, is dead. Age 68, she died on Thursday, November 11, 2021. Announcing her passage, a statement signed by Prince Adeyanju Lipede, the Lipede royal family of Erunwa, Ake, Abeokuta, Ogun State, said funeral arrangements will be announced later.
Okay, and then on page 8, ad hoc staff transporters almost frustrated Anambra poll, says INEC. The Independent National Electoral Commission has provided an insight into how ad hoc personnel and transporters scheduled to convey election materials during the Anambra State governorship election withdrew at the last minute. The commission said it would review the election and make adjustments. You may read more of the story on the Punch newspaper, page 8.
Before we go into more of the stories on the dailies from Tribune and the Punch newspaper, we'll be right back after this short break. This is Alore Radio, transmitting from Ibadan. Congratulations to the people of Oyo State. It's been 2 years of restoration, transformation, and rejuvenation since the advent of Engineer Seyi Makinde as the governor of Oyo State. The pace the state is maintaining its stance on administration leading in economic restructuring, agricultural reposition, vibrancy in youth and sports, outstanding educational facilities, good roads, job opportunities, security, and many more. This is the people's governor. A hope for better tomorrow. Ride on our governor. Katsi, Alore Radio, GSM Studio, Ministry of Information, Culture and Tourism, Secretariat, Agodi, Ibadan.
You are tuned to Alore Radio, broadcasting from Ibadan, Oyo State, Nigeria.
Okay, it's nice to know that you're still there on Alore Radio, transmitting from the GSM Studio, Ministry of Information, Culture and Tourism here in Ibadan, Oyo State, Nigeria. And we are still on to the dailies. I want to quickly take this from the Nigerian Tribune on page 8. It says, how we spent 1.5 trillion COVID-19 fund, says the Finance Ministry. The Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning has explained how the federal government spends the 1.5 trillion COVID-19 fund. The first explanation was taught the Freedom of Information request filed by a leading lawyer, Mr. Femi Falana. While the request was made on September 9, 2021, the response was dated November 1, 2021, making a gap of 53 days. In a cover letter signed by Director National Planning and Evaluation, Dr. Zakari Lawal, the ministry claimed that while 500 billion naira COVID-19 intervention was, I quote, disbursed to identified MDAs to implement critical intervention programs as contained in the 2020 Appropriation Act Amendment COVID-19 intervention programs, the balance were to support private sectors by the Central Bank of Nigeria through financial institution at single-digit interest rate. End of quote. Says documents attached to the letter contain the list of programs and projects, the implementing agencies, amounts appropriated, and their objectives. If you want to know how the 1.5 trillion COVID-19 was actually dispensed, you can pick up the Nigerian Tribune on page 8.
Okay, I'm picking this very interesting story on the Alaafin of Oyo, who says, I don't use juju to recall dates or events. The Alaafin of Oyo, Oba Lamidi Adeyemi, has described investment in knowledge acquisition as very rewarding. The monarch, who said this in Ibadan on Sunday while addressing students of Leeds City University during the institution's 14th convocation, claimed that some people believe that he is using supernatural power to recall dates and events accurately. While denying using such power, Adeyemi said he was able to recall dates because of his investment in developing his mental capacity. You may read more of the story on page 43 of the Punch newspaper.
Also on page 8 of Nigerian Tribune on Electoral Act, Buhari will base his decision on public security economic interests, says Malami. Amidst speculation that the Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, will sway President Muhammadu Buhari to decline presidential assent to the Electoral Act No. 6, 2010, in brackets, Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2021, passed by both chambers of the National Assembly, the Chief Law Officer has said he lacks the power to decide for the President. The federal lawmaker had adopted the direct primaries as the only option for all political parties to pick their candidates ahead of next general election. For details on that story, turn to Nigerian Tribune on page 8.
And on page 43 of the Punch newspaper, Oyedepo counsels youths against get-rich-quick syndrome. President Living Faith Church International, also known as Winners Chapel, Bishop David Oyedepo has warned Nigerian youths to shun what he called get-rich-quick syndrome. Oyedepo gave the advice at the 8th convocation of Landmark University, Omaran, Kwara State, held on Friday. 45 out of a total of 468 graduates that passed out of the institution bagged first-class honors, while 196 were in second-class upper division, 221 second-class lower division, and 6 in third class. You may read more of this story on page 43 of the Punch newspaper.
And on the Metro page of the Nigerian Tribune on page 26 says 1 dead, 14 injured in Osun auto crash. 1 person reportedly died while 14 others sustained various degrees of injury in an auto accident that occurred on Sunday on the Osogbo-Bogan Expressway in Osun State. The incident occurred at about 7 in the morning at Ogi, an adjoining town to Shepona. An official of the Federal Road Safety Corps, who preferred anonymity, disclosed that the accident involved a Toyota Corolla car and a Mazda bus. I pray that even as the festive period is getting closer, that the drivers on our highways will be more courteous in their driving.
Amen. We pray so. And then lastly from my end, I'm picking the story from page 43 of the Punch newspaper. Land grabbers, Monarch gives Ogun governor 7-day ultimatum. The Ewusi of Makun in Shagamu area of Ogun State, Oba Timothy Akinsanya, has given the state government a 7-day ultimatum to intervene in an alleged land invasion by some suspected land grabbers. The traditional ruler threatened to lead protests and block major roads in Shagamu area of the state if the government failed to come to the aid of his people. Akinsanya, while addressing journalists in his palace in Shagamu on Sunday, lamented that some suspected land grabbers invaded communities in Makun with weapons and injured residents. You may read more of the story on page 43 of the Punch newspaper. And to close this press review, I'll take this on page 31 of the Nigerian Tribune. It says, Osun Monarch opens sports resort in Ibadan. The Olodogbo of Odogbo Ijesha in Osun State and a sports promoter Oba Olatunde Ogini has opened a resort with sports facilities in Ibadan. The new resort has a football field, badminton hall, snooker and billiard hall, tennis court and a swimming pool. The sporting center, named UCHD Executive Suites, according to the Monarch, will also be hosting polo games when the pony ranches presently under construction is completed. That's another place for you to kind of have a nice time. Yeah. Okay, and that we'll call it a day from our end here on that note. But like I said, do not forget to follow us on our social media handles on Facebook, www.facebook.com/Alore Radio, and you could also subscribe and follow us on YouTube, Alore Radio. Don't forget we have our website active, www.aloreradio.com, and you could also download our apps, our Android apps on Play Store. Thank you very much. Once again, my name is Olamide Adeniji. And it's good to know that you're there with us on Alore Radio. And don't forget, we're transmitting from the GSM Studio, Ministry of Information, Culture and Tourism here in Ibadan, Oyo State, Nigeria. Keep watching Alore Radio.
ọgbà tí àṣejìná lòdì ìrànjẹ́ làwọn aláṣejòkòtì tí wọ́n fẹ́ máa jẹ ọba ni wọ́n ó ṣe gàyà díẹ̀ ná ìlú ló láṣẹ ẹjẹ́ ìlú ó jẹun náà ìdí nìyí tó fi jẹ́ pé ẹ̀tọ́ ìlú là ń fowó ìlú ṣe nípìnlẹ̀ Ọ̀yọ́ ẹ̀rí bí ní ètò ẹ̀kọ́ wa ṣe ń jògèrè LAUTECH ti di tìpínlẹ̀ Ọ̀yọ́ ilé ìwòsàn alábọ́dé bíi 40 ló ti wẹ̀wọ̀ ọ̀tún pẹ̀lú àwọn òṣìṣẹ́ tòun tòògùn àti irinṣẹ́ tó pójú owó iṣẹ́ sì ti fẹ́ẹ̀ parí pẹ̀lú lórí 100 míì jákèjádò ìpínlẹ̀ Ọ̀yọ́ ààbò tó dájú ohun amáyédẹrùn ní ìṣokùnfà ìdásílẹ̀ iléeṣẹ́ ńláńlá láwùjọ òun náà nípínlẹ̀ Ọ̀yọ́ fi wà nípò kẹta nínú àwọn ìpínlẹ̀ tí ń pawó wọlé jùlọ lábẹ́lé nílẹ̀ wa ọ̀pọ̀ ọ̀dọ́ ló ti láǹfààní ẹ̀kọ́ṣẹ́ iṣẹ́ àgbẹ̀ lọ́nà ti gbàlódé táṣeyọrí yìí ó sì jẹ́ kó ń jẹ́ sùn wá bọ̀ láìpẹ́ nípínlẹ̀ Ọ̀yọ́ àwọn òṣìṣẹ́ àtòṣìṣẹ́ fẹ̀yìntì ń gbowó wọn lásìkò pápá àṣírí Adámàsìngbà àtàwọn inú ojú pópó tí ń sòrú dọ̀sán ńkọ́ àwọn ìlú ti sọ pásì ìwádùn níṣèjọba yìí fi ń mọrírì gbogbo àwọn aláṣẹ gómìnà Ṣèyí Mákindé ló ń sọ fún wa pé pẹ̀lú ìṣọ̀kan wa oòrùn tó kù lókè yìí ó táṣọ ọgbẹ́.
iléeṣẹ́ ètò ìròyìn àṣà